It was 2004, and Porsche released Project 980 to the world, aka the Carrera GT. And it made beautiful noises like this, and this, and this. It had some flaws, and who doesn't? Yet these flaws, they were deadly. It was extremely unpredictable at the limit. Porsche's very own test driver, the legendary Walter Roll, said it's the first car in my life that I drive and I feel scared. Then it tried to kill Jay Leno. Then it tried to kill supercar collector Ben Chen. It even tried to take out the Stig.
Tires and, honestly, it's a pig.
And in November of 2013, the CGT did kill two amazing car enthusiasts, including motorsports media legend Paul Walker. It is a car without compromise. You don't get a second chance when driving a Carrera GT. Thus, it quickly earned the reputation as one of the most dangerous cars to ever be on the streets. Let's kick it into overdrive with my dream car, the Porsche Carrera GT. Let's go. It was at the 2003 Geneva Motor Show that Porsche unleashed a mid-engine monster into the public. And it was a lot like nothing else Porsche had ever done before. Carbon fiber everywhere, V10 powered, and it was very, very, very fast. But the real story starts in the 90s. Well, actually, even before that. Porsche has a long, incredible history of racing, from tearing up the dirt to finding podiums on the tarmac. Porsche has more success in racing than any other manufacturer, period. It actually isn't even close. Back to the 90s, when the Carrera GT was nothing but a glint in their eye, Porsche had twice as many wins at Le Mans as the next highest manufacturer. You know, this little Italian car maker named Ferrari. Porsche dominated the 90s, enjoying 7 consecutive years of being #1. But if you listen to Squid talk about the Mazda that dared take on Porsche, you know that the rules were changing in racing. And those rule changes were threatening Porsche's dominance since they didn't have a new rule-abiding engine yet. First, they built a V12 for Formula One, but that thing just wasn't as good as they wanted it to be. So Porsche handed the design over to a secret team who tossed the V12 and spit out a brand spanking new V10, a 760 horsepower V10 that could rev up to 14 grand, a V10 that Porsche thought could win Le Mans. They didn't do that. They built a carbon fiber car for it, sure, yet the car and the engine sat on a shelf collecting dust while Porsche made lame old SUVs. That was a great decision for Porsche, but not so much for us enthusiasts. It's super sad that 10 years before the LFA, Porsche had a beautiful sounding high output V10 that was just sitting idle. But Porsche shifted gears, and the time was right to build a real car. In the late 90s, McLaren was untouchable with the F1. Ferrari had this little project that they were working on for a road legal race car called the Enzo. And Audi, who like Porsche was owned by Volkswagen, was developing a little thing called the R8. What a time to be an enthusiast. The world was primed for a second supercar revolution, and Porsche, being Porsche, didn't want to be left behind because, after all, they're winners. So, despite pressure from Audi, who didn't want the competition, and despite lukewarm corporate interest, a prototype supercar using that old V10 and Le Mans styling was shown to the world in Paris in 2000. And believe it or not, it was actually mostly just a publicity stunt. They thought it would attract enough attention that Porsche could promote their all-new Cayenne SUV. And although the Cayenne was a blockbuster hit, the CGT prototype was even spicier, and people were so interested in it that, well, Porsche decided to start producing the Carrera GT for real, not just for fun. And my God, is it a special car. It's a no compromise car, worthy of being the best car in Need for Speed, Most Wanted, right? Man, those were the good old days because that was one of the best racing games of all time. Speaking of the best, the beastly 5.7 liter V10 is easily in the top 5 best sounding engines, going toe to toe with the likes of the LFA. But that unworldly sound is one of the many unique characteristics because this car is alien. It's got these giant air intakes, these lumps behind the driver, and it honestly looks like someone squished a real car in a big hydraulic press. And yet, somehow, it's still unmistakably Porsche, which is made even more amazing by the fact that they started with a race car. Yeah, that Le Mans car that I mentioned earlier, it never really went away. They just bolted on some turn signals and called it a Carrera. And it was a supercar revolution. Seriously, it just broke the mold. Well, not the carbon fiber mold, because the whole car is the first serial production car to be made of the stuff. Yeah, Porsche was pushing the boundaries of what could be done legally on the road. And on the inside, you get basically nothing. A push button ignition, to the left of the steering wheel, of course, because of the Le Mans heritage, a beautiful beechwood shift knob that is a tribute to the ugly and barely drivable 917, and lumbar support held on with friggin' Velcro, which you're gonna want because it has pushrod suspension that you only really see on custom race cars. And they are stiff as hell and will knock your dentures out. Swing to the outside and you see insane 15-inch carbon fiber brakes, which are just way bigger than my head. Then zoom in and notice one single color-coded lug nut per wheel and air ducts meant for a jumbo jet ready to suck in air for that fire-breathing V10. The real magic though is underneath the car, something that you can't see from the outside. You see, it has this super impressive itty-bitty clutch. Yeah, while everyone else and their mom was moving towards flappy paddles, Porsche stuck to the spirit of driving and used a real manual. But that itty-bitty clutch meant that the Porsche was the lowest car ever. The top of that massive engine was about knee level, which is amazing for lowering the center of gravity and going around hard corners on the track, but it's terrible for on public road use. I mean, you thought going over a bumpy road in a Stance Corolla was bad because it ripped your AutoZone air dam off. Imagine scraping a 7-figure clutch pack on the ground. Basically, this car was never really meant for the road. And reinforcing that point is that there is no flywheel. So if you don't rev match like a race god, you'll stall your $1 million plus Porsche like a noob. Cap it off with the fact that it has no airbags, no ABS, and absolutely no traction control. Yeah, it's not meant for mere mortals. It's meant for the driver who is willing to sacrifice everything in the name of speed. It's about as deadly as it is beautiful, is what I'm saying. It's a true masterpiece of automotive engineering. And as you can tell, I kind of fanboying out about this thing. In the right hands, it destroyed lap records all over the globe. It became the fastest Porsche to lap the ring in 2004, setting a smoking time of 7 minutes and 28 seconds flat, averaging 103 miles per hour over the whole course, and forever etching it in history as one of the fastest supercars ever. Which brings us to the topic of the day. When you respect it, like its race car siblings, the CGT is a true raw driver's car. But when you don't respect it, it will throw you off quicker than a bucking bull. Does that mean it's a dangerous car? Well, if you were to dial 911 and call Porsche, the answer would be no. Porsche says that it's what people wanted. They wanted a car that had no gimmicks, no frills, it was just fast, it was just Porsche. And that's not a dangerous car, any more than a nice chef's knife is a dangerous tool. In capable hands, it's fine. But give it to a child and be ready with the phone to call 911. And if you take a step back and look at the evidence, more than 200 of the 1,270 that were built have been crashed. Yes, 1 in every 6. That makes the CGT 50% more likely to be in a crash than an FRS BRZ86, which currently tops the list for most accident-prone vehicles. When you look at the really high-profile cases though, let's start with Mr. Jay Leno. He spun the car around 5 times while showing off at Talladega. And by his own admission, it's because he lifted when he shouldn't have. And that's not the car's fault. Ben Chen, who collects supercars and drives them to be seen, was on a public road where imperfections and bad road conditions caused him to lose traction. It's not the car's fault that he was driving on a public road with potholes where essentially a CGT shouldn't be. And when the Carrera GT was involved in a life-ending accident on a California racetrack, it's because a Ferrari pulled out in front of it, causing the CGT driver to swerve into a barricade and avoid a collision. That's not the car's fault either. And then when Paul Walker climbed into the passenger seat of a red CGT piloted by Roger Rodas, a very experienced driver, they were driving at a high rate of speed on a public road, on old tires. And it's the old tires that are the biggest problem here, because tires are what keeps the car on the road. They are the only contact point, the only way to control the 600 horses trying to tear you apart. And when you have a car that is so close to the edge, bad tires are, well, a death sentence. And that isn't the Carrera's fault. Maybe it is. Not in a the car can think and wants to hurt you sort of way. Rather, did Porsche break their contract with society and produce a car that, while being truly excellent, was just too much for the road? And it wouldn't be the first time that Porsche was held to that standard. Hell, the 930 Turbo is known as the Widowmaker. So was the 997 GT2, and the most recent 991 GT2 RS. Hell, Paul was the second super high-profile car guy to die in a Porsche crash. James Dean passed away when he lost control of his Porsche 550 Spyder on Highway 46 in California, a highway that I've driven many times. That is just what Porsche is at their core, uncompromising. They build cars that are on the edge, and we as car enthusiasts have to face it. And that is dangerous, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you for watching this week's video on my dream car, the Carrera GT. We do these Overdrive videos every Friday, and you can check out the ones that you missed up here. Also, subscribe and help us hit that 1 million subscriber mark. You guys rock. I've been Brad, and this has been Ideal. Promise me one thing, keep living the ideal lifestyle.